Hi everyone in English 2323. It's Dr. E and I'm here with your week 7 instructional video. As you can tell, it's October and we're heading into spooky season, so I thought dressing up would be a little bit fun. Maybe every week, maybe not, we'll see. Let's go ahead and jump into where to go and what to do this week for our assignments and whatnot. So I'm just going to go to D2L to the content area. And it's a pretty straightforward week, but we do have kind of a new kind of assignment. So I want to make sure that we go over that. If there are any questions or concerns. So you're going to start reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Stevenson, as well as his biography. You are only going to read up until this section entitled The Last Night. These are the page numbers if you happen to have the print text, but in the online version, which most of you I'm sure are dealing with, it's just still up to this section. So you're watching the instructional video, you will have your quiz and a discussion that's due on Thursday. So again, pretty straightforward week. All right, so if you scroll down, you're watching what will appear here. We don't really have anything to review this week, no new documents, no new assignments. Pretty straightforward, right? So our week 7 discussion is one I'm really looking forward to because I try to incorporate kind of, different forms of media, different ways that we can express our ideas, and I think this is hopefully going to be fun for most of us. So we're moving into Stevenson's text, and I really want us to think about how he uses language. He's really well known for being an author. He utilizes imagery, he offers a lot of description, but at the same time, the description lacks description. So he uses all this language, but it doesn't necessarily give us anything concrete, right? So when it comes to characterization, you will see some of that. And so what I want us to do is just think about how we as readers kind of put together these images in our minds when we're reading something, because we all have something different, right? So we all read differently, we have different experiences, different awarenesses, and so that's doing different work for each of us in terms of creating the story in our minds, what we kind of visualize internally when we're reading something. So with Stevenson, we're going to put some of that to the test, right? So this week, your goal is to create an image for a character that you choose in our reading so far from The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and this is going to be utilizing AI. Now, I do want to kind of stick an asterisk there and say that if you have some ethical concerns about AI, it's understandable. There are environmental issues to consider when utilizing AI. I mean, most of us use AI every day without really considering it, or whether it be kind of predictive text, or if we're using map apps, or any number of things involve some sort of generative AI. But me asking you to specifically use it, and especially image creation, that takes more energy, right? So we have environmental factors to consider, as well as whether or not we feel comfortable inputting data into AI generators of whatever sort. So if you feel that you ethically cannot complete this specific assignment, I'll get into some details of something that you can do that's still related, still kind of, fulfilling what our goal is, but it's not using an AI generated image. Okay. So you're going to go to the text and choose a character that you like. So we are introduced to various characters so far. You're going to pick an AI image generator, and I've listed some free options here. Now, most of the time, these free options are going to require that you set up some sort of account, a free account. So you can use your Lone Star email address and create a specific password that you like, because with something like ChatGPT, for something quick, you don't necessarily need to log in, but for image creation, typically you do need to set up some sort of account, although it is free. Okay, so you pick one of these. Given the details provided by Stevenson, I want you to input some of the features. So you can use some of his language. What I don't want you to do is just copy and paste from the text. Not only will Norton kind of stop you from doing so much of that if you're using the electronic version, but I also want you to, even if it's not specifically listed by Stevenson, if there are attributes or key features of a character that you've somehow created in your mind, I want you to input those. If this character has a mustache, or if this character has a certain, color hair, that kind of thing, you can input it to try to get the result that's related to what you have in mind. Okay, so you're going to input that. You can ask, or I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. So ask the generator to produce an image and be patient. It will take some time. Again, it's asking a bit more than just something text related to be shot back. An image is something different. I want you to tell your audience which AI generator you used. And then once the image has been produced, I want you to copy and paste not only the image, but the details, right? So what text did you input to create the image that you got, okay? I'm going to walk through this with you, and I've given you an example, post of my own. So I then, after you've done this work, I want you to write at least one paragraph that kind of identifies how the image aligns with the picture in your mind or differs, right? So it's going to spit out this image. Is this pretty close to what you had in mind? And if so, why? If not, why not? That kind of thing. So what details could you add, both to help the image be more clear and to help your audience really get a sense of the character you envisioned, okay? So I went to ChatGPT just because I already have something set up with ChatGPT and they can do image generation. So I am going to, so this is the image it created because I input this detail. I wanted a cartoon image. So you can say, create an aged image. You can be really creative with what, I'm not looking for something that's hyper realistic, right? I want it to be something that's close to what you have in your mind for this character. So I put rugged countenance. That comes directly from Stevenson. He drinks gin. Austere is another term that that Stevenson uses. He seems friendly but is reserved. Lean and long are also descriptors that that Stevenson uses. And he's just kind of an average guy. He's one of those people, in my mind at least, that is just nondescript, right? If you had to, after passing him on the street, if you had to go back and describe him, you probably wouldn't have a lot of detail because he's just kind of this every guy, right? Okay, so this is the image that it was created. Again, I asked for a cartoon one. So I went up here and I clicked copy, so I could copy that into the text box because I want you to know what I input to get the image that I got, right? So if I go down, here is my post, my example post. I used ChatGPT and I entered this. And then if you go back, and all the image generators are fairly similar, right? They won't look exactly like this, but they'll have the same elements. You can copy, paste, that kind of thing. I clicked on this. I just clicked copy. And I went back in here. And so it may not let me edit. Anyhow, if I went and I had the text box here, I would just essentially right click and paste the image there and it would appear, which is the easiest way to do it, right? Instead of uploading a file that we all have to open and look at, it's nice to just have the image right there so that we can get the image while we're reading all the information that you've provided. So, and then I explained it, I had to laugh because this guy looks really bored. I also note that, it didn't ask about, racial identity. I didn't include anything about racial identity, but it defaulted to white, which we can definitely interrogate and question why that might be, because that's something that's really important to consider. And I also put, I didn't add more specific detail about the time period. So he's in more modern clothes. I don't really know what this drink, I guess it's a drink with liquid and ice and maybe a lemon or lime wedge if it's a gin. I don't know. So I put some information, that just kind of reflected on the difference between what I input, what I see, and what's in my mind, right? And what I would add to maybe make it a bit more accurate to what I thought. So, and then I clicked post. Okay, so that's essentially it for the discussion. It's just a nice way to, we're writing, we're thinking about, the authorial choices that Stevenson made. Because again, he uses a ton of language to kind of, a lot of figurative language, right? He's explaining the scene, he's explaining these characters, but there's there's almost nothing there in some of the words and the descriptions that he's shared because they're not giving us something that's super clear in our minds. So let's create an image that does that work. Okay, and then of course you have your weekly quiz, right? So your discussion is due on Thursday, and then you need to respond to at least 2 of those colleagues, so that's 25 points. And then your participation quiz, and I do want to note that the participation quiz is not only over the beginning of Stevenson, but we're also going back to Doyle, so make sure that you've reviewed, reflected on, especially because we're going to, in the future, think about the connections that we're seeing between these 2 authors and these 2 texts, because there are quite a few. There's a lot that is overlapping there, and with good reason. We'll get into that a little bit next week. So the quiz covers all that, as well as asking who I'm dressed up as today, right? So if you haven't guessed or didn't know, I am dressed up as Rosie the Riveter, right? The wartime kind of icon when women were in the factories doing all the work, right? So this is Rosie. We can do it. That's her saying. Okay, so that is a quiz question. So now you have the answer to that. So if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. Let me know. Thanks so much for your patience and all your efforts so far. I've been really, really pleased with our course, and just a lot of you are so self-motivated and driven, but you are definitely willing to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. So I'm so thankful for that. Please keep that up. Keep yourself energized, because we are rocking and rolling. We're already in week 7, so we're almost to we're very close to the halfway point. So congratulations on that, and keep it up. Just let me know what you need.